I know that some people might ask, why did you bother remaking something from Episode 3? Revenge of the Sith has to be the most video game adapted movie of all time. I myself had Episode 3 for Game Boy when I was young, so I get it. It's a great game, by the way. I just have a ton of love for Super Star Wars for Super Nintendo, and I want to see this scene in that style. I also did my best to avoid being influenced by the Game Boy Advance game, and I tried not to look at anything from it at all while working on this project, although the influence is probably still there. The Super Star Wars trilogy stands tall as the definitive side-scroller adaptations of Star Wars, and I think it's due to John Knowles and Harrison Fong's artwork. They were able to cram pretty much every classic Star Wars character, major and minor, into that game trilogy, and that makes them feel complete and classics in their own right.
There's something to this, Mason. There's a reason. Come on, that looks pretty good.
All right, that's pretty.
There's a reason people remember this system so fondly.
So artistically, my highest ambition was to get as close to the feel of those games as possible, even down to taking color palettes directly from those games to create the new art for this. One big focus on this 16-bit scene was efficiency. How do I pull off this recreation of a huge, ambitious duel as quickly as possible without compromising quality? And to accomplish that, I relied on some software that I haven't used on a 16-bit scene before. My process has changed significantly since the last time I talked about it, so I thought, why not talk about it now? I used to use Paint.net for pixel art, but I've since switched to Sprite. It is great color palette management, and it was designed with animation in mind. It also allows you to import and export sprite sheets, extract palettes, and it even has shading brushes. It has features that I wish that I would have had from the start. Speaking of when I started, I used to animate the characters over the top of existing sprites. And I still did that a little bit in this one, just to make callbacks to the original games. But back then it was because I lacked confidence in my skills as an animator. I did eventually get more comfortable hand animating my own moves, and I still did that for this, because this duel calls for a ton of moves that weren't in the original Super Star Wars. I needed to create a lot of these moves in a short amount of time. I could have manually animated them, but that would have been a longer process. So I took a shortcut. One time-consuming aspect of pixel animation can be redrawing characters from multiple angles. 3D animation doesn't have that problem, so I made the characters 3D. I designed the torsos of Anakin and Obi-Wan and then sculpted them into 3D voxel models in a program called Magica Voxel. And then I imported them into a separate program called Pixelover. So I basically created virtual puppets. Their torsos are technically 3D, but their limbs are 2D rigs using inverse kinematics. I still imported them back into Sprite to do frame-by-frame touch-ups to get every frame looking as good as possible. And I added a few little touches like Anakin's hair flopping around. But yeah, I really recommend Pixelover. It's made by Decor, who is a legend, and it's a really great tool to have in your toolbox if you want to do animation like this. I used to draw entire levels manually placing every pixel and doing a ton of copying and pasting. I wish I could go back and yell at the past version of myself to learn to make tile sets, because they allow you to create levels quickly with a lot of flexibility to change them. And that's how I made Mustafar for this, out of 16 by 16 tiles that could be arranged and rearranged to create different levels. It allowed me to create a lot in a shorter amount of time. And of course, 16-bit scenes would not be complete without the music. And Kenny has done an amazing job once again. The scenes don't really fully feel like the scenes until they have the music. So I'm grateful once again to have him on board. Overall, this was super fun, and I hope you enjoy watching.